Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
This podcast is brought to you in partnership with okjersey.com. Looking for football shirts? Head over to okjersey.com and enter the discount code Harry for 8% off. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. Look, I'm not going to even try and hide it, right? I am absolutely furious with what I saw yesterday at Emirates Stadium. It was a really bad Arsenal performance. It was a really poor display across the board. Everybody's got to take responsibility. Every single player, the manager. You know, it's one of those that I'm finding really, really kind of difficult to get past. I know it's still relatively early. We're talking about the morning after, but I'm feeling really, really down in the dumps, really concerned, frustrated, all at the same time. And I've started to question how much we actually want this title. Like, how much do we really want it? You know, it's all well and good, you know, people talking about us as the champions elect, and not just within Arsenal circles. You're hearing that across the board. You had Jamie Carragher writing a piece the other day saying that Arsenal could win the treble. Has that got to us a little bit? I don't know. I am really, really upset with what we saw yesterday. And look, today's show's going to be a little bit chaotic. It's not going to be the usual. Let's start with the lineup and work our way through the major events of the game. I'm sure we'll cover it all off, but there's a lot that I want to get off my chest today, and there's some key themes that I want to really kind of focus and hone in on. So if we're jumping around a little bit, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it's going to be today. If you've got any thoughts or questions, chuck them in the chat box, and we'll jump in and out of the chat box as well. There's loads and loads to unpack from that yesterday. And, you know, I came home yesterday and I sort of sat down, and as I was coming home, I'd sort of heard that, you know, Patrick Vieira had said this, and you know, Micah Richards had said that, and Gary Neville had said this, and so-and-so had said that. And I thought, let me sit down when I got home and watch the Sky coverage. And normally, right? Normally, I'm that guy that leaps to Arsenal's defense. Normally, I'm like, no, that's over-the-top criticism. It's all designed for clicks and to rage bait people. And I sat there and I listened, and I couldn't disagree with a single word that was said about Arsenal. It was such a poor, underwhelming, disappointing display, and we lacked composure. You know, the one thing that we've always kind of held up as Arsenal's big strength this season and last season, even when, you know, going forward, we haven't been as sort of exciting as we need to be, or as sort of impactful as we need to be. We've always said, yeah, but, you know, this team, they're a bit more streetwise. They're a bit more composed. And therefore, they'll probably still be in the mix and still be there or thereabouts, regardless of whether the attacking output is as good as we think it should be. You can't even say that about Arsenal yesterday. What I do want to do, right, and I want to make this point from now, because I watched also some stuff on beIN Sports. Arsene Wenger was talking about the game, and, you know, he had his views and thoughts on it. What I do want to do, and maybe a lot of people will push back on this and disagree with it, I don't know, but I don't really want to focus on the defense. And that sounds mad, because we've lost 3-2 at home. When you concede 3 goals at home, you know, it makes it very, very difficult for you to win the game, okay? But I think when it comes to the goals that we've conceded, you've got to put it down to the first one, a horrible individual error, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. And then 2 stunning finishes. And where I said in my instant reaction yesterday, and a lot of people took issue with this, that I thought we were a little bit unlucky in some ways. Well, it was in that way, right? Because Dorgu doesn't produce that. You know, again, if you give him that opportunity 50 times, he doesn't produce that again. Okay. And Matheus Cunha, you know, I think Matheus Cunha technically is a really good footballer. I've always thought that. And he produces a really, really good finish. Where I said we were a touch unlucky, it was in that the quality of the goals that we conceded just made them impossible to stop. But in the lead up and in the build up to those goals, we could have done more. But my point here is that I don't think it's fair to sit here and really rip our defense apart, because our defense has been solid for such a long time. This is like the first time in 2 years or something that we've conceded more than 3 goals or more than 2 goals in a game. So I don't want to sit here and hammer the back line. I think that where the questions need to be asked are further up the pitch. The midfield, really poor, generally speaking. Okay. And the front line might as well have not been playing. Like, honestly, it was non-existent, the threat that they were supposed to pose yesterday. So I'm not saying that we defended well yesterday. Please don't take it that way. But that's not where my frustration lies today. That's not where my anger comes from. Because if we had lost the game, but the performance was better, good, strong, then I can live with it. And it was the same with the last 2 games in the Premier League, right? So the Liverpool draw, I was underwhelmed by the performance, but I said, I can cope with the result. I don't hate the result. And there was a lot of people that jumped on me then and went, oh my God, it's a draw. How can you say that's acceptable against this Liverpool side that aren't producing anything, whatever? But I didn't come away from that feeling that Arsenal performed like they did yesterday. The Nottingham Forest game, I was more upset because I thought the performance was really, really bad and lackluster. And yesterday, I thought the performance was bad all round, but I'm consciously making the decision to, and if you want to call it going after the attack, then fine. I'm more sort of willing to do that today than I am to kind of go after the defense, because I think Manchester United's XG, if you look at it, and I do want to have a quick look at it because I looked at it last night, but I can't exactly remember what the number was. So let's have a quick look at that now. If you look at Manchester United's XG from yesterday, it was 0.73, so less than 1, and they've scored 3 goals. So that tells you that the quality of their goals, was particularly with the first 2, with the second 2 was just second 2 and 3 was outstanding. Okay, let's break this down into a few different segments then, a few different sections. A lot of people have put Arsenal's performance yesterday down to nervousness. And a lot of people have highlighted what they believe to be a general nervousness that exists inside Emirates Stadium right now, every time we go into a big game. And some people will push back on that and say, no, it's not nervousness. We've just been really unlucky. We're fine in terms of the mood, and the nervousness isn't an issue. If you are pushing back, from that angle, and you are suggesting that there is no nervousness, there is no anxiety within Emirates Stadium, I'm sorry, you're either completely misinformed, or you're either completely misinformed or you're in denial, because it exists. It is a thing. This is not one of those narratives that has been formulated in the media with really and truly no basis. There is a nervousness. There is an anxiety. We can't get away from that at the moment. It is there. It is a thing. How do you get over it? How do you deal with it? Well, you know how you deal with it? You know how you get over it? Your players have to step up and produce the kind of moment that Patrick Dorgu did, or the kind of moment that Matthias Cunha did. And in 3 consecutive Premier League games now, nobody has stepped up. Nobody has taken ownership. Nobody has gone and grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and made something happen to ease those nerves, to calm everybody down, to show everybody that not only do we want to win the Premier League title, but that we have the quality to do it. And, Mikel Arteta was really, really keen post-match to keep highlighting how good we were in Milan. And yes, going to San Siro is never easy. And when you go to San Siro and win, you should be proud of it. You should be happy with it, etc., etc., etc. But at the end of the day, our problems exist in the Premier League, which is a totally different competition in terms of the teams that you face, the tactical challenges that you'll come up against. We were not good enough yesterday, and there is no getting away from it, and no highlighting of a previous performance is going to cut it after what we saw yesterday, because we saw a lack of quality, a lack of composure, a lack of desire. We saw so many problems yesterday. I keep saying it. How do you deal with the nervousness that exists within the stadium that is then clearly, transmitting onto the pitch? The players are feeling it too. But how do you deal with it? Somebody's got to stand up and say, I'm going to go and deal with this. I'm going to go and make something happen. That's what the best players in world football do. Okay, that's what the best attacking players on earth do. And we don't have enough of them. And we spent such a long time talking about the depth that we have. Oh, if it's not Saka, it can be Madueke. If it's not Trossard, it can be Martinelli. If it's not Odegaard, it can be Eza. If it's not Gyökeres, it can be Jesus. But the truth is, whichever way you go, whoever you pick out of that bunch, none of them are performing. None of them are producing what they need to be producing regularly enough for Arsenal to be as attacking and not as attacking, what's the word I'm looking for? As potent as they need to be in the attacking third. I'm going to read you some stats that, were going around on Sky yesterday. I think Sky highlighted them on their coverage. Bukayo Saka, 0 goals in his last 13 appearances in all competitions. Not good enough. Victor Gyökeres, 0 non-penalty goals in his last 11 Premier League appearances. Not good enough. Gabriel Martinelli, 0 goals in his last 13 Premier League appearances. Not at the level required. Noni Madueke, 0 goals in his last 25 Premier League appearances. Leandro Trossard, 1 goal in his last 11 appearances in all competitions. Why do I highlight those statistics? Why do I highlight those lines? Not because I want to go after any one of them individually, but because I want to highlight and make the point that as a collective, our attack is not good enough. It's not good enough. And this has been the case for a long time. It's not just something that we've seen in the last 3 games. If you look back over the course of the Premier League season so far, we don't have a player with more than 5 goals. We don't have a player with more than 5 goals in the Premier League, yet we expect to win a title. Our efficiency level has been high because our defense has propped it up. And that's why, despite being poor defensively yesterday, I don't want to sit there and have a pop at those guys and that particular unit and department of our team, because I think that we wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for them. And so rather than trying to place some of the blame at their door, did they play great yesterday? No, they didn't. I would rather place the blame at the door of our attack. And we've had a big problem in attack all season. And when Mikel Merino grabs a couple of goals, or Gabriel comes up from a set piece and heads home, or, Martin Zubimendi chips in with a few goals here and there, people are sort of quite quick to overlook the attacking thing and say, yeah, but, as a team, we score as a collective. I'm guilty of this too. I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. Okay. But in the last 3 games, we have seen a major, major problem. 3 Premier League games, that is, with our attacking output. So don't sit there and have a pop at Gabriel yesterday, or Saliba, or Timber, or Nkapie, or, Ben White when he came on, or any of that. Have a look at the real problem, and the real problem is in the attacking third. Now, where it becomes quite difficult to attribute the blame is how much of it is players underperforming versus coaching style. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I'm finding this really, really difficult to break down, because there's a part of me that thinks Mikel Arteta's desire to, in his words, control football matches has made us really risk averse, has maybe just clipped the wings of some of our individual talents in terms of what they feel they can do and get away with. But then I look at some of the chances that we've had and we miss them, and we're not proficient enough, and we're not clinical enough. And I think, well, some of that's got to be on the players as well. So I think the answer is a bit of both. A bit of both. Our identity as a team under Mikel Arteta has become one that is sort of shaped by our defensive stability first and foremost. And that's okay, right? That's okay if you've got ambitions of being competitive. But we're beyond that now. We're past that now. We need to be winners. And to be winners, I'm sorry, you need more attacking output. You need more attacking output. And there was a a clip that I put out from the podcast that we did after the Nottingham Forest game, where I said one of the big worries and concerns right now as an Arsenal fan, and this was before yesterday's game, is that you don't know where the next goal is going to come from. You don't know where it's going to come from. Yes, you can say, oh, we spread the goals around the team, and it's nice that we're not solely reliant on one particular goal source. But at the end of the day, if you don't know where that goal is coming from, that creates or at least contributes to that anxiety and general nervousness I keep talking about. But I'll go back to what I said earlier. In order for that to be remedied, in order for that to be cured, big players have to step up in big moments, and they have to make it count. They have to produce the kind of quality that wins you football matches. You know, people keep saying, oh, we got match winners in the team. Who? Leandro Trossard can do it from time to time, but I've just read you a statistic. He's scored 1 goal in his last 11 appearances in all competitions, so he doesn't do it regularly enough. Victor Gyökeres has got 0 non-penalty goals in his last 11 Premier League appearances. Bukayo Saka has got 0 goals in his last 13 appearances in all competitions. It's not about any one individual. Not for me anyway, because this is a problem across the board. Players have ups and downs in their careers. Players have great moments and they have not so great moments. Sometimes they even have bad moments. Also, the flip side of that is people sometimes have purple patches, but it's the consistent level of, failure, I suppose, to convert, to produce those moments when we need them most. And I saw a team come out yesterday and play really, really well from the beginning. For the first 20 minutes, I thought we were doing everything right. We had lots of the ball. There was some smart combination play in the middle of the park that was sort of luring people in, drawing people in. And then we were popping it around the corner via Jesus, via Odegaard, etc., etc. And we were getting into spaces and positions to hurt Manchester United. And I thought, okay, this is good. Then we went a little bit flat, in my opinion, before we scored. But once we scored, you know, you should have seen a composed and calm Arsenal, because we keep highlighting that stat. You know, Arsenal have gone X amount of games where they've won after scoring the first goal. That should be in the back of your minds. That should give you confidence. Maybe there was an overconfidence. I don't know, because what it felt like to me after that was that we were taking silly risks. And I know the first goal that Manchester United scored was a gift, okay? It was absolutely 100% a gift, and we'll break that down in a minute. But there were warning signs before that. Sloppy passes, you know, a hesitation in the back line when we were trying to move the ball through the lines and forward, sloppy passes in midfield, bad decision-making when we broke forward. I don't know. I was really, really frustrated and disappointed by what I saw. And I want to highlight the attack, because that for me is the issue. They, for me, right now, are the problem. That's the side of our game that's letting us down. That's the department in our team that isn't pulling its weight. And I know people always go, oh, yeah, but we face low blocks. And yeah, that's difficult. Fine. Cool. Low blocks are a problem for us. They've been a problem for Liverpool. They've been a problem for Manchester City at times this season as well. Low blocks are a thing in the Premier League. But the attacking output of some of our so-called bigger players is so poor right now that it's impossible to ignore it. You have to highlight it. You have to shout about it, because if we don't acknowledge there's a problem, how the hell do we fix it? And I don't expect Mikel Arteta, by the way, to come out in post-match interviews and say, Saka didn't do enough today, or Trossard didn't do enough today, or Gyökeres didn't do enough today, or Martinelli didn't do enough today, etc., etc. Whoever you think is letting us down, I don't expect the manager to say that. I'm smart enough and I understand the game enough to know that as a manager, you don't start publicly throwing your players under the bus, no matter how much people online want you to. Okay, I'm more clued up with how it all works than that. Okay, but that doesn't mean we can't call it out. We see it. You know, we are watching this team every single week. Arsenal fans are more clued up, more educated around the game, with the stats available to us and all the video and all the analysis available to us, than we've probably ever been. Okay. So yeah, I think we've got to be honest about what we're seeing right now. Rumble says, And you know, you haven't even given me a chance to get onto it. You're taking the blame away from the manager. What a surprise. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, no, I'm not. We haven't got there yet. But I thought the way Mikel Arteta managed the game yesterday was poor. Really, really poor. And we're getting to that. Don't worry. Don't jump to conclusions about what I'm going to say. I thought that in particular, that decision to make 4 changes at once was wild. Anyway, we're going to get onto that. Right, let's take a really, really short pause, and then we're going to break down some of the key moments in the game. We're going to talk about some of the individual performances, and of course, we're going to dive into that chat box. Let's take a short pause. We'll be back very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. We've only got a handful of likes on the board right now. I know nobody wants to like anything Arsenal related after yesterday's performance, but if you could, it really, really does help the channel. So please like the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't done so already. Check us out on Patreon as well. Patreon.com/the Chronicles of a Gooner. We'll be getting something out later on today, potentially early evening, just depending on how the day goes. Unfortunately, I've got to relive what happened yesterday over and over and over again today, which is not ideal. Also, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please do leave us a review. That really does help. Okay, let's start with the 1-0, the goal that Arsenal scored. Now, as I mentioned already, I felt that Arsenal just dropped off before we scored. I thought that the dip happened before we found the back of the net. I thought that the dip happened before we sort of took the lead through that. I mean, it was a ball into the box. It was a bad cross, really. Dorgu's defensive header was terrible. It gets brought down by Saka. He works it inside. Odegaard completely scuffs his effort, and Timber's there to make a nuisance of himself. In the end, the final touch comes off of Lisandro Martinez. But you know what? Our start to the game, you felt, deserved a little bit of luck. And that was how I saw it at that point. I thought it's not the tidiest goal. It's scrappy. It's messy. But I'd been saying in the lead up to the game, I don't care if we win 1-0 and it comes off of someone's backside at the far post. So I would take that, and I was happy with that, right? 1-0. Now, we're in a position where Arsenal are normally very, very efficient from. When we get in front, we normally win football matches. And I was really, really confident that having scored the first goal, we'd do fine. But then you started to see that sloppiness creep in. Okay, you started to see that sloppiness take a grip on us. It created, I'm not going to say it created, because there was a nervousness from the off of the game, right? If we're being completely honest. And that nervousness generally exists around Arsenal right now and within Arsenal fans. But that lead doesn't even last 10 minutes. It lasts 8 minutes, okay, before we gift Bryan Mbeumo an opportunity, which, to be fair to him, he takes quite well. But here's my thing with that goal, okay? A lot of people are going to blame it solely on Martin Zubimendi. And I get why, okay? I understand why. Martin Zubimendi plays a stupid pass inside. He gets the angle of the pass completely wrong. The weight on it's terrible. He should do better. He should know better. But in my opinion, Zubimendi should never get that ball back from William Saliba once he's played it inside. So I'm not saying that Zubi isn't the main culprit in this, but I do think you have to highlight Saliba's role in this as well. And Saliba's one of the players that I want to talk about a little bit later on. Does anyone else feel like recently Saliba's been asked to play like a right back at times and get forward more down the right-hand side and, you know, to try and influence the game on the ball a little bit more than he would have done previously? That is as a result of us having no attacking ideas, basically. Oh, well, I can't get Saka to produce anything, so let me ask my centre-half to do it. But that means his focus is split between defending in the way that we know he can and trying to be a playmaker. And that means that he's going to struggle to do both of those things as effectively as he can. You know, there was that moment where the ball was played in behind him and he had no idea, or there was a mix-up at the back. My mind's gone on in terms of how exactly that came about in the build-up. But then he has to sort of recover. He has to turn around and he has to try and make this last-ditch challenge. And to be fair to him, he reaches it and he gets a little touch on the ball, which stops Bruno Fernandes putting it into the back of the net. So he recovers. But there were moments in that game where William Saliba just looked incredibly uncomfortable. And like that, coupled with what he seems to be trying to do all the time on the ball, has got me wondering if his role's changed, if they're asking him to do something else, and if that's then impacting on his ability to defend in the way we know he can. I don't know. Zubimendi, the main culprit, as I say, for that first goal. No doubt about that. He still could do better. He still should do more with it. But I don't think the Saliba pass was great. And I don't think, as I say, he's the main culprit, but I do think he plays a part in that. And that should be highlighted. Then it's 1-1. We're going at halftime. And you're thinking, right, we've switched off. It's one lapse. It's one bad moment. Actually, it's a few bad moments, but one that's actually led to something and developed into something. Let's go out again. And let's start the second half the way we started the first half. One of my big frustrations with Arsenal, right, in recent weeks is that in the weeks prior to that, in the months prior to that, you'd often see Arsenal start games quite slowly. You know, try and feel their way into it, try and find a way through the low block, not be particularly successful in doing so. And then what you'd see is an Arsenal side that comes out of the traps in the second half quite fast, quite strong, and either get their noses in front or, if they are already in front, take the game away from the opposition. But we're coming out after half time these days asleep. What's going on in the changing room at half time? Because we're coming out every single week after the break as if we've had a nap. And we've got that groggy, sleepy feeling, and we can't shake it. Manchester United are lively at the start of the second half. They're having plenty of the ball. And 5 minutes into the second half, Patrick Dorgu provides that moment of brilliance. Was it a handball? Some people are arguing it was a handball. I'm ashamed to sit here this morning and talk about very, very, I'm ashamed to sit here this morning and talk about what would be very, very controversial decisions had they been awarded. You know, the potential handball from Dorgu, and then people are talking about the Harry Maguire one as well. If I was to sit here and make a mountain out of a molehill when it comes to those things, I ought to be ashamed of myself, because our performance was the problem yesterday. I said it right at the top of the show. My problem is performance more than result. Okay? That's my problem. And I don't want to sit there and talk about silly little things that might have gone our way. I want to talk about what we can actually control and what we should actually be focusing on. Dorgu produces this brilliant goal. And at that point, you know what? 50 minutes in, because of the way we'd gone from sort of being really on top in the first 20 minutes, dropping off a little bit for a few minutes, but then getting our noses in front just shy of the half-hour mark. That period between 30 minutes and 51 minutes, 52 minutes, okay, that was enough for me to see that Arsenal weren't going to win that game. And I never felt the equaliser was coming, not at any point. We didn't create enough chances. We didn't produce anywhere near enough in terms of attacking play. The substitutions that we made on the hour, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. You know, yes, we keep talking about a squad. And yes, there were a bunch of individuals out there that weren't performing. Therefore, I can understand why, as a manager, you might be so frustrated and so angry with what you're watching that you might think, I'm taking them all off. In fact, there was an argument at that point to probably take 6 or 7 of them off, if you could, because of how poorly the group was playing. But as a manager, you got to be more composed than that. You got to be more aware of the sort of period of adaptation that's required when you make 4 changes to your outfield team in one go. And that actually, that's not going to help you doing it the way that Mikel Arteta went to do it. Throw on 4 players that are completely different to the 4 players that were on the pitch. And what, you think it's just going to click within 5 minutes and all of a sudden your team are going to be producing at a much higher level. And let's break down those changes as well. Okay, let's break down those substitutions. All 4 took place on 58 minutes. Now, the only one that I saw coming or that I thought was excusable was the Piero Hincapié one. Okay, Piero Hincapié has been out for a period of time. It was coming up to the hour mark. He's probably run out of steam. He probably was never earmarked to play more than an hour anyway, regardless of the circumstances, right? Fine. But bring on Miles Lewis-Skelly. Bring on Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back. He's a ball player. He's going to step into midfield. He's going to go and join in. He's going to help you in your build-up. We've seen him play good, effective passes when he gets forward. Play him at left back. Bring him on and stick him at left back and leave Jurrien Timber where he is, if you're going to leave him on. There was an argument that Jurrien Timber should have gone off at some point as well because he looked knackered. Okay, so that I will criticize Arteta's management of the game because I thought he got so much wrong. Timber on the left-hand side. Stop doing it. It don't work. If you've got your backs against the wall late on in the game and you're holding on for dear life and you need to put him there, fine, because defensively I trust him and I don't have any real concerns about his ability to tuck in and defend. But then you're asking Jurrien Timber to go and play this really complex left-back role, all right, and try and influence the game going forward on his wrong side, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So Hincapié coming off was fine with me because of the reasons I've just mentioned. But, generally speaking, you don't bring Ben White on and move Timber to the left. Bring Miles Lewis-Skelly on, for me. Then you move into the midfield, okay? Martin Zubimendi, take him off. Shocker in the first half, really poor error, and he lost his head after that. He was all over the place after that. He was trying too hard. He was running around like a headless chicken. He wasn't getting anywhere near the ball. He had to come off. Fine, not a problem for me. Take him off. But then you bring on Eberechi Eze, okay? And I know that Marino came on as well, but this is where I struggle. We had no control of the game at that point. None whatsoever. Our midfield wasn't getting on the ball and dictating the tempo of the game. Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro were doing that, with Bruno Fernandes dropping in and helping them out as well. So you bring on a player in Eberechi Eze who, for me, does not benefit or does not work in a game where we don't have the ball, or when we don't have the ball enough, or when we don't have that control enough. But then again, saying that, he comes on and offers zero, man. Not one dribble of note, just a couple of twists and turns on the spot before laying it off left or right. Not one moment of quality, in my opinion, from Eberechi Eze from the 58th minute when he came on until the game was over. He was like a passenger, like he has been a lot in recent weeks and months. Okay, Martin Odegaard comes off, no problem with that, stinker. Okay, Martin Odegaard was really, really poor. Okay, outside of that first 20 minutes where I thought he was quite good and quite lively, he offered us nothing. Get him off. No problem. Get him off. Mikel Merino comes on for him. Mikel Merino is the only one of the substitutes that had any impact whatsoever. And then the final change during that period was Victor Gyökeres on for Gabriel Jesus. Now, you would not believe how many people messaged me yesterday or commented under my work yesterday saying, you wanted Gabriel Jesus to start, and that's what happens when Gabriel Jesus starts up front. If you think, hand on heart, that we lost yesterday because Jesus played over Gyökeres, football is not the game for you, because that wasn't the reason. And I've seen lots of people with hindsight talk about the starting 11, etc., etc. For me, that's neither here nor there. That starting 11 is good enough to produce a much higher level of performance than the one we saw. And it's only good having a big squad and having multiple options if you can identify which options are the right options in certain scenarios and in certain game states. And that was all wrong from Mikel Arteta yesterday. You got to be honest. It was all wrong. Victor Gyökeres comes on. What did he do? And this is a question that I'm asking to you guys in the chat. What did Victor Gyökeres bring that helped or improved Arsenal in any way, shape, or form when he come onto the pitch? What did he bring? And don't tell me running or hard work. That's the bare minimum I expect from a footballer. Don't tell me that he was moving around the pitch. Don't tell me that he was mobile. He lost a load of jewels. He couldn't shake off Lisandro Martinez, who could fit in his pocket, with all due respect. Like, and fair play, man. Fair play to Lisandro Martinez, because he don't look like a particularly powerful figure or character, but he done it to Erling Haaland the other day as well. But my point is this: Gyökeres did nothing. So if you're sitting there saying Gyökeres should have played ahead of Jesus, what makes you think that we'd have been any better? Like, and I'm asking you the question. I want to know, because I've watched the game back again this morning and I can't see a single thing that Victor Gyökeres brought to the table. There was that moment right at the end of the game, okay? There was that moment right at the end of the game where he goes in behind. And I know that it wouldn't have counted or whatever. There was maybe a foul or whatever it was that the referee blew up for. But he looks across the penalty box as if to say, right, I'm looking for an option to roll it across the face of goal. And he shanks it. He shanks it 40 feet up in the air. What was that? What was that? It was an example of the fact that his technical level is not where it needs to be for him to play for a club like Arsenal. And people say it's agenda. You know, I'm not having Gyökeres. I wanted Gyökeres in the summer as much as anybody. But what I'm seeing is not good enough. And Jesus isn't good enough either in terms of the bigger picture. The hope was that between them, they could share the responsibility, and that would be just enough. But I hate the way people flip-flop from one thing to the other, or from one side of the argument to the other. If you think Jesus was not impactful enough yesterday, that's absolutely fine. I agree with that. Okay, I agree with that. But then to try and use it as an excuse to prop up Victor Gyökeres, that's where I'm struggling, because he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything when he came on. And as I say, it's not just about him. It's not just about any one individual player. It's about the group. It's about the collective attacking force in this Arsenal side. It is not good enough. And nobody has stepped up and gone, right, I'm going to take on the responsibility here. I'm going to take on the burden. Saka's not playing badly, I don't think, like bigger picture, but his outputs aren't there. They're non-existent at the moment. I didn't think Trossard was bad in the first half yesterday, but again, where was the output? There's no outputs. There's no outputs. And, you know, Tom says, we've also scored the second most goals in the league. Yeah, fine. But those goals aren't coming from our attacking unit, are they? Because if they were, we'd have a player at least on more than 5 goals in the league. You know, that's the reality of it, right? If our attacking output in terms of what we're getting from that department of our team was good enough, we'd have a player that scored more than 5 goals in the league this season. That's the reality of it. Arteta frustrated the life out of me yesterday. And overall, I think he's done a good job. And overall, I'm behind him. You know that. And there'll be people going, oh, you're trying to do... I'm not defending him at all today. I've been scathing in my assessment of the way that he managed the game today or yesterday. I thought he made some really silly errors. I thought he made some really, really poor decisions. We are a danger to ourselves. We're a danger to ourselves. We are, because, you know, Manchester City aren't at the level that we've come to expect from them over the years. Liverpool are nowhere near it. Yet here we are making things nervy. If we'd have won one of those games against Liverpool, Forest, or Manchester United, we'd be in a much stronger position than the one we're in today. We'd be 6 points clear, having just lost the game at home. And you'd take that, wouldn't you? You'd say, well, we lose. It doesn't happen often. Where I'm sort of keen to then start to draw a line under my very scathing assessment and criticism of Arsenal is when we start going broader picture. Okay, broader picture, we're still good. We're in a good position. We're in a good place. Okay, but it should have been a better position and it should have been a better place. And that's the reality of it. But what we've seen in the last 3 Premier League games is worrying. Okay, it is worrying. And people keep saying, you know, players are burning out. Well, like, change them then. If they're burning out, change them, because you've got the players there to do it. Kai Havertz wasn't even on the bench yesterday because of the depth that we had. You got the players to do it. Change them then. So yeah, and like a lot of people say that when it comes to our attacking cohesion and sort of our effectiveness in that department, that it's down to Arteta. Okay. And I don't actually have a problem with people saying that. I don't, because clearly it's an issue that whatever it is affecting a whole group and a whole bunch of attacking players. You know, Saka's not scoring. Trossard's not scoring enough. Gyökeres isn't scoring enough. Jesus isn't scoring enough. Okay, Eza's not scoring enough. Madueke's not doing enough. Martinelli, overall bigger picture outside of the Champions League, is probably not doing enough. There is obviously something broader, but what is it? Like, and when people say that, you know, you always jump to Arteta's defense when it comes to the attack, it's not that I'm jumping to his defense. As I said already, I've been really scathing of him yesterday and the way he managed that game. But it's because I can't put my finger on what exactly it is. What is it? Is he telling them don't finish efficiently? Is he telling them misplaced passes? Is he telling them don't beat your man? Is he telling them get to the byline and make the wrong decision in terms of the cutback? I don't know what it is. So again, I'm interested to hear from you guys what you think it is specifically about Mikel Arteta's coaching that is creating this overarching issue that our attack is suffering with. Because when it's across the board, as it is with Arsenal right now, I think it's fair to look at the game plan, the tactics, the coaching, rather than sort of drilling down on individuals. I think that's absolutely fair. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Like, for example, when we used to talk about Arsene Wenger's team, okay, in the second half of his tenure, obviously, and we used to talk about them getting torn apart on the counter-attack, I used to look at it and I used to go, right, I can see what the coaching issue is here. Okay, what he's doing is he's either leaving Mikel Arteta at the time he was playing or Granit Xhaka at the time he was playing at the base of our midfield on his own, pushing both our fullbacks up in a bid to create chances and to play, you know, the attacking brand of football that Arsene was synonymous for. And that is leaving us exposed in a certain area. Okay, and if you don't have the most mobile of players, which, if we're being honest, Mikel Arteta wasn't when he played as a 6, and the same with Granit Xhaka, then that is going to leave us exposed. I remember looking at it at the time and thinking, that's the problem. I can clearly see the problem. And yes, that adds to the frustration because you can see it's there, yet nobody's taking the steps required to fix it. But with this, I legitimately cannot tell you exactly specifically what the issue is. Can you? And that's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. It is a concern. It is a worry because it's a whole bunch of attacking players that we just can't get a tune out of at the moment. So that does suggest that it's something more systemic and something bigger. But yeah, what is it exactly? That's what I want to know. Eric says maybe the build-up is just too slow, which gives the other team time to regroup and reorganize the defense, and there's a lack of central threat. Okay, I agree with the speed of the build-up. I agree with that. It's a good point. And we are giving people the time to regroup and defend. And it goes back to last season where I was talking about the need to move the ball through the lines quicker. But then the counter to that is, well, do you think that's a manager's instruction? Do you think his instruction is, I want you to keep a hold of the ball and look after it rather than playing it through the lines early when the opportunity presents itself? Because if that is what he's saying and that is what he's instructing, then I agree that that's a problem. The lack of central threat, this is interesting because I've sat here today and I've said about Gyökeres and I've said about Eza. And I think you got to talk about Noni Madueke as well, who comes off the bench. Everybody gets excited, but the guy needs the pitch to be extended for him to be able to actually make something happen on the right-hand side because he keeps carrying the ball out of play or playing overhit passes, right? So that's another one. But the point I'm trying to make here is that these are all new recruits. So, and I know this sounds a little bit knee-jerk because, as I've said already, you know, we're talking about this game and the last 3 weeks rather than the bigger picture here. Or are we? Or are we? You know, maybe we're talking about the bigger picture, but it's been masked for a while. Has the recruitment actually been as good as it looked on paper then? Would be the next question, wouldn't it? because Madueke is not scoring goals, really, generally speaking. Gyökeres isn't scoring enough goals. And Eza is not producing enough when he's on the pitch. And so you got to look at that and you got to wonder if, those deals and those signings were the right ones. If we get over the line and win the Premier League, you can zoom out and you can say broader picture, bigger picture. It was enough to get us over the line. But there's so many questions, and I don't really know the answers on this Monday morning. I'm frustrated. I'm agitated. I'm sure you can tell that by my tone and my general demeanor this morning, because that's a big opportunity missed. And it's the third week in a row in terms of the Premier League that I'm talking about a big opportunity missed. And so it's natural that we're going to feel the way that we do. It's natural that we're going to question whether this team wants it enough. It's natural that we're going to question whether this team has got the bottle and the stomach to go and win a Premier League title. That is going to be a much easier Premier League title to win than any of the ones in recent seasons, because the standard in terms of the points tally that's required is dropped. We're on course, I think, for 81 or 82 points at the moment. Go back and look at the Premier League table over the last 7-8 years and let me know how many times someone's won the league with 82 points. Now, that we could do that. We could. I'm not saying we're not going to win the league and it's definitely over and it's done. We could easily do that. But my point being that, we are not performing like the kind of side that wants to go and grab it with both hands. We are stuttering at the moment, and we've stuttered in recent seasons during the winter period. It's always been a thing for us. And let's hope we can come out of it nice and quickly and go and win at Leeds at the weekend and get ourselves back on track, restore a bit of confidence, etc., because we are in danger of shitting the bed right now. We haven't quite done it, but we're in danger of doing it. And we're a danger to ourselves because our handbrake on approach at times, the lack of confidence and belief that we show in ourselves when we get into the attacking third, and the lack of output from our attacking players is threatening to derail us in a season where it's all shaping up for us. And if we don't go on and win it this season, and it's because we shit the bed, I don't know if I think that this project, etc., can continue any longer. I can forgive the previous drop-offs with the benefit of hindsight, because I think there were reasons for those. If we don't win it this year, given the way it's shaping up, I don't know how you pick yourselves up and go again without making significant changes. I don't know how you do it. And maybe I'm over emotional and I'm being knee jerk and I'm being overreactionary on this Monday morning. But that's how I feel today, and I can't help that. And maybe over the course of the week, you're going to get some more measured and detailed analysis from me. But today I'm talking from the heart, and this is how I feel. On the day, individuals let us down. The volume of individuals that failed to perform contributed to a really poor overall performance. And then I think the manager got plenty wrong yesterday in the way he managed the game. I'm not going to sit here and call him out for the team selection, because it's the team I would have picked. So while with hindsight, we might believe that it was the wrong team selection, and a lot of people have said that, that's fine. But I'd be a hypocrite if I sat here digging him out for that when I was the one before the game that said, or one of those, not the one of those that felt that was the team that should start and should be picked. So it's a tough one to take. It's a tough one to take. It's a really, really tough and difficult one to take. And we need to move on, and we need to move on quickly. We need to draw a line under it, and we need to move on quickly. As players, you've got to be able to put that to one side. Martin Odegaard talked about it, stick together, etc., etc. But it's only natural that as fans we feel the way that we do. And I'll finish my rant before I go into the live chat for some of your comments and questions with one of the points I made very, very early on in the pod, because I think we've come full circle in our conversation and in our discussion. Okay. You can say we're nervous. You can say we're feeling the pressure. You can say we're feeling the heat, and you can say as a result of that, we are struggling. But what is the remedy for that? The remedy and the responsibility to find the remedy is with your players. And your big players need to come out in a moment like this and produce the kind of moments that Dorgu and Cunha did yesterday to win you a football match. And for a few weeks now in the Premier League, nobody has done that. Nobody has produced that bit of brilliance. And so while you can talk about our structure and our coaching and how, in a lot of people's eyes, that impacts the way we attack, all valid, by the way, not sort of downplaying that at all. You need to look at the players as well, who need to step up, who need to show something, who need to show us that they want it and can provide that remedy to the nervousness, to the anxiety, to the stress that we're all feeling. It's on them. The responsibility is with them, because we've done this thing in football, okay, over the last few years. And I've had countless conversations with my youngest brother about this over the years, okay? He always goes on about this, and I think he's absolutely right, yeah? He always says that what we do in modern football is that we put everything down to coaching. And we say if a team fails to win a game, whether it's because they missed from 2 yards out in the last minute or whatever, we always go after the coach. And when they win, we always praise the coach and place so much of the importance and the influence on the coach. And actually, we've gone too far in terms of how we attribute blame when it comes to the coaches. Again, let me reiterate and re-stress the point. Arteta got it wrong yesterday. He did. I've been super critical of him. But I don't want that to detract from the fact that our players are not producing when it comes to the attack. We've got to be honest about that. And we've got to be fair in our analysis. Okay, short pause. When we come back, we're going into the chat box. I'm going to put my tin hat on and we're going into the chat box. Let's do that next.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's just quickly check in where we're at on the likes. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. It really, really does help. Can we get another 35 on the board to hit that target before we wrap up the live stream? Joe Abraham says there's nothing wrong with our attacking signings. Arteta's system pulls attacking players. Give Arteta Haaland and watch him turn him into Beto at Everton. Trevor says it's time for the leaders in the group to stand up and respond, not a time for knee-jerk reactions. Donut Lord says, why don't we just get a new manager? Skillman Swift says, Harry, if you were put on the spot now, what would you say? Is it the players or the system? I would say it's both. And I think that if you focus too much on one, you're letting the other person who's responsible get away completely scot-free. You're allowing them to essentially commit a crime that they're not going to face any repercussions for. If you ignore the system element and the way that we play and you ignore that side of it, then you're giving Mikel Arteta a free pass, which even I, contrary to popular opinion, don't want to see happen, because I think he's got to take responsibility. I've said it all season. When you've got this squad at your disposal, you have got to get a tune out of them. There's no excuses anymore. So if you pin it all on the system, then you're giving the players that are not producing at the moment a free pass. If you pin it on the players, then you're giving the manager a free pass. The truth is somewhere in between. Now, how far you move along the scale from one side to the other on that will vary based on different people's opinions. But I don't think it's one without the other. I think it's a combination at this moment in time. Jay Knott says it's easy for Odegaard to say stick together when he's not performing. I agree. That's one of those like lines that I'm sorry, as a fan, I don't want to hear after a game like that. Because people will say, you know, for example, the booing. There was a little bit of booing at the end of the game yesterday. There'll be people that say the booing was wrong. It was out of order. It shouldn't happen. This was only our first loss at home, all season. Cool. Right. Fine. Some of those things are facts, like it was our first home defeat of the season. But you can't help how you feel. And the reason there were some boos, and I'm not going to judge anybody that booed or voiced their frustration or concern in any way, shape or form, because the reason people feel like that is because the performance was so bad in what was a huge game against an old adversary, a game that means so much to us as Arsenal fans, okay? And they are going to feel the way that they feel. And it's very, very hard to keep a lid on your emotions when you're as invested in your football team and in this sport as we are. Okay, in the past, In the past, I might have been one of those people that says, oh, you shouldn't boo your own team, etc., etc. Your team needs you. And I do believe that your team needs you. And I do believe that if you can control the way you feel, it's helpful. And if the atmosphere is more positive, it is helpful. But at the same time, sometimes it boils over, like it's boiled over with me on today's podcast. I'll admit that. I'll hold my hands up and own that. Okay. But then I hear stuff like, oh, let's stick together, like all the lip service stuff. And again, I know you got to do that. Okay. What do you want Martin Odegaard to do? Come out and say, yeah, Martin Zubimendi, that pass was absolutely crap. And it really turned the tide of the game and put us on the back foot. And my performance was rubbish. And, Bukayo Saka was really busy, but didn't actually make anything happen. And neither did Leandro Trossard. And Eberechi Eze came on and might as well have been wearing an invisible cloak. Like, do you want them to come out and talk like that? Because if you think that you're going to get that, you ain't going to get it. That's why I think, right, sometimes don't read into too much what's being said. Don't read into too much, about, from the manager's comments. Sometimes the manager's comments are designed to limit damage. And they might not always be how he's truly feeling in that moment. What I did like about Arteta's reaction yesterday, and yes, I talked about him highlighting the Inter performance, and I didn't really like that bit, as I've said. But I like that he didn't try and say, oh, we controlled the game, we had this, or go, because I was half expecting that, I'll be honest. I was half expecting him to come out and say, we had more of the ball, we had more shots, we had more touches in the opposition's box, we had a much higher XG, etc., etc. I was kind of half expecting that. I'm glad he didn't do that, because that would have really annoyed me, to the levels of the PSG game last season in Paris, when he came out and said we were the better team over the two legs, which was complete and utter nonsense. So, yeah. Anyway, let's pick out a few more comments from the live chat before I sign out. Gamsola says, Harry, is it simply the fact that we rely too much on our defense to get us out of trouble? It can't be sustainable. Yeah. We're imbalanced as a team. Our efficiency level at one end of the pitch, yesterday aside, is just so much higher than it is at the other. And that means that we're imbalanced. And that means, we're going to come unstuck at points. So, yeah, I agree with that. Jid says, I get that fans have PTSD from not getting over the line, but at what point should we take responsibility for our own traumas? We're still first during a difficult period. If we get over the slump and we are still first, then that will be good. Thinking we should have been 11 points ahead at this point, as though the league's had too many easy fixtures for us not to get all threes, is ridiculous. Listen, I quite like that you're looking at it through this lens. And I think I will be able to look at it through this lens when the dust settles a little bit. But I find it really, really difficult when the performance is that poor to control my emotions. I think when we play okay, doesn't even have to be amazing, but if we played okay and we lost that game, I'd be able to take it and I'd say, bad day at the office. Look at the quality of the goals that they scored. Bad day at the office, you move on. I'm not going to say it's lucky on Manchester United's part, because it's not. Their players stepped up and produced really good moments. And because they're moments players, and we don't have that. I'll tell you, there was a moment while we're on the subject, there was a moment in the game that really kind of shone a light for me on our lack of creativity. Okay. And again, you could put it down to system. You could put it down to whatever you want. There was a situation just after we scored. I think it was just after we scored, where the ball ends up with Bruno Fernandes in midfield. He's got his back to our goal. And without looking, without taking 15 touches, he just manages to work the ball first time in behind our defense, and he releases Bryan Mbeumo. And Saliba gets back and does quite well in terms of holding him up. And in the end, he manages Mbeumo to work it inside, and Bruno Fernandes drags his shot wide, right? But I just looked at that and I thought, look at that from Bruno. Like, he gets his critics, right? He gets his stick, doesn't he, from all angles, Bruno Fernandes. Does he moan too much? Does he complain too much, etc., etc.? But that's what he's capable of. Give him a free roll, okay, and let him show his class. And he did that. He did that, and he split our defense open with one single pass. I cannot remember the last time I saw an Arsenal player receive the ball on the half turn and open up an opponent like that. And people will say, oh, it's because we face low blocks all the time. Most of the time we do. But I don't think we've got a player that thinks like that. I don't think we've got a player in our ranks that, is so focused on doing damage and doing his sort of best that they don't care about the idea of holding on to the ball in possession, that even if that is the manager's instruction, they can block it out. Odegaard, once upon a time, was that player. He's not anymore for whatever reason. I don't know. I can't explain Martin Odegaard's drop-off. And I'm always more worried about things when I can't explain them. So anyway, I think I might leave it there. I think I might leave it there because I'm just going to end up saying stuff that I shouldn't be saying. I'm so upset with so many individuals yesterday. And when I say stuff I shouldn't be saying, it's not that I'm not allowed to say it before someone jumps on that. It's that I've tried really hard this season to try and manage my emotions better, to try and stay more balanced in my analysis, and to try and look at the broader picture, even when the temptation is to rant and to rave and to shout and to scream about things that are isolated incidents. But this lack of attacking output is something that we've seen across various points in our season so far. It's something that really does concern me. It's something that I am really struggling to explain, because there's a part of me that wants to talk about the manager and the system and the shape and the setup. And if you drill in certain principles too far, do you then push something else out of the way, which in this case would be that attacking spontaneity? But also, I know that these players, in most cases, are better than what we're seeing right now. And that is something that can be attributed, I suppose, to the system to a degree, but they've also got to take some personal responsibility and make something happen. And it's just not happening at this moment in time. So, yeah. Okay. I am going to love you all and leave you all. Thank you all so much for being here. I know it's not been the most pleasant of listens. I know it's not been the most enjoyable of podcasts, but I hope it's helped you as it's helped me in terms of getting things off of my chest. We will be back tomorrow with another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the subject of which I have no idea at this moment in time, but we will come up with something. We will discuss something. We will maybe try and look at it in a more analytical way and try and get to the bottom of some of our issues. Maybe, I don't know. Right now, all I can think about is the frustration of yesterday, and all I want to do is stop talking about it. So on that note, thank you so much. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out. We're just a handful of likes away from that target that we'd love to get to by the time we sign out. So please do that. Lots of you in the chat talking about Ethan Waneri, saying talk about Ethan. We talked about Ethan on, I want to say, Saturday's pod. And the loan and all the rest of it, we touched on that, and maybe we'll revisit that at some point, but it's not that we're avoiding it. And yeah, like, subscribe, join us on Patreon if you like. There'll be a Patreon piece coming your way a little bit later on. Until the next one, take care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and up the Arsenal. We need to fix up, and we need to fix up fast. I'll catch you all soon. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.